to join me. And courtesy is the word of the week. And the thing is, that's where the title comes from. Courtesy doesn't cost a thing. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you any energy or nothing to smile or say hi to somebody or try to start a conversation with somebody who appears to be out of their element or in a socially awkward setting or any amount of situation like that. It costs you nothing, but it can gain you the world. It can gain you access to some of the most interesting stories about people. It can gain you access to some of the most interesting people in the world. Just showing a little bit of courtesy when others don't, right? So, Courtesy Week, really, it's just about being nice. That's all there is to it. And being nice to strangers seems to be one of the things that we kind of forget, you know, but I have this pet peeve related to courtesy in a way too. I've talked to some other students about it before as well, is when you're using your courtesy as an excuse for an egotistical reason. And what I mean by that is we've all heard somebody at some point complain about opening the door for somebody and then that person not saying thank you, right? And how they would want to tell that person off for not saying thank you or this, that, and the other. But do understand that for some people in the world, courtesy is so rarely shown that they're shocked by it when they see it and they don't know how to react and they don't know how to respond and they kind of freeze. I know that there's been times people have done stuff for me, opened doors for me or whatever, and if they didn't also say anything that kind of brought out that automated verbal response from me, then it was difficult. Like I would be in shock and difficult to even say thank you. And, you know, like, but if you're the type of person that's going to open the door, oops, I don't want to end the live video. I just started. If you're the type of person that's going to open the door for somebody and then get mad and slam it in their faces and don't say thank you, that's kind of, you know, that's not courtesy at all. That's wanting to be able to call yourself courtesy. That's a sort of self-righteous behavior, whereas somehow you have sacrificed some major amount of energy and time to hold that door open. And so somehow or other, they owe you that acknowledgement. And the fact is a lot of people would acknowledge you, but some people that don't is just because they're feeling socially awkward. They were caught in their own thoughts. They weren't expecting any kind of courtesy or kindness because there's so many people in the world that have lives that condition us to a point of not expecting kindness and courtesy, or if we do get it, we get almost paranoid about, you know, waiting for the other shoe to drop and things like that. So don't get mad at somebody if you show them courtesy, a stranger or whatever, you show them a courtesy and they don't immediately reciprocate. Sometimes they think about that later and just sort of makes you a martyr. Sometimes they think about that later and they realize that they responded in a socially awkward manner, but at the same time, they do appreciate that someone tried to take the time to reach out. I mean, I like to tell a story about this guy who I was at a gas station, I just pulled in and he rode up to the gas station. This happened with WMS down the road. And he rode up to this gas station on his lawnmower. And I thought it was like the coolest, like boss move ever. Like I was like just riding up to the gas pump on the lawnmower, right? And so I said something nice to him. I can't even remember what I said. This has been a few months ago. And it's in the spring. And he gave me a weird look and didn't respond. And then I felt weird for even saying anything to him. You know, I was just trying to be nice. But, you know, as I was leaving the store, when I went to leave, he was coming in. And then I didn't even realize it was the same guy. And he started, because I didn't have my glasses, I didn't see him well, you know, from a distance. And he started talking to me and he was answering me. He was answering the compliment that I had given him outside. And the thing is, it just took him that long to respond. It took him probably a good 20 or 30 seconds after I went in the door to even like figure out if I was somehow insulting him or if it was an actual compliment. Because so many of us look at a compliment as a double-edged sword, and we look at it and realize we've been made fun of through compliments before. So, you know, we hear that from a stranger and we instantly think, oh, what's the inside joke? What am I missing, right? What's the other side of it? And we look for that. And in looking for that, we forget to sometimes acknowledge the compliment of another person. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Just keep showing your courtesy, though. People become more used to it. People become more used to seeing it. People become more used to sharing it and more used to showing it, and less sort of zombified around each other in public, which I know I'm guilty about being a little zombie-like in public and not acknowledging people sometimes. It just kind of depends on where my headspace is at, you know, where I'm at there. And those are the times that I probably need somebody to pull me out of it and just kind of stop me and be like, hey man, you doing all right? You all right? You know, so that I can pull back from wherever my brain was going while I was walking through that store. But courtesy is sort of that one coin that I hate to use that old phrase. Who was Eisenhower? I don't even know who to credit the phrase to. That courtesy is the one coin that the more you spend, the more you get in return, guaranteed. And that's truth. The more you spend, the more you get in return. And a lot of people like to talk about things like common courtesy, right? Even common courtesy is something that's gone sort of by the wayside, right? It used to be common courtesy to acknowledge someone, you know, when you made eye contact, even if it was accidental and across the room, there was always this kind of common courtesy to acknowledge that you made eye contact or whatever. People don't do that these days, you know, people just blank stare and then they go on about their ways and they look dead inside half the time. And I know I'm as guilty of looking that way as anybody else, but this is why we need to be, you know, the warrior in a different way. You know, sometimes the world needs warriors that fight physically, and sometimes the world needs warriors who are just willing to do better, just willing to be a better example and try to bring out the best in those around them, right? It's just a different kind of warriors. Peace Warriors is all about. So, yeah, Mike's exactly the type of person I'm talking about. I've been known to pull people back outside the door by their car and slam it in their face. See, that's what I mean. I could see you doing that, though. I know you put not really, but I could still see him doing that. But, you know, I know it's just one of those things that, like, if someone's trying to, you know, if you're trying to show courtesy to somebody and then you feel offended that they don't acknowledge that courtesy, then who is that courtesy for? That's my question. Who is that courtesy for? If you feel offended that they didn't acknowledge it, then who were you doing it for? Right? Were you doing it for them? Or were you doing it so that they would acknowledge you? There's a big distinction between the two. And so, you know, where does your courtesy come from, right? You know, like why are you wanting to be nice to other people? Is it because you want to make the world a better place? You want to put a smile on somebody's face? Cool. Then you're going to have to understand that people aren't used to that these days. A lot of people are living dark lives, dark times, lots of problems, lots of issues, stuck in their own minds. Plus the cell phone stuff for the past several years has us all, you know, just staring off into that, having 5 conversations at once while we're in public around a bunch of other people. Because it's like that, we have a tendency to forget. We're only human, right? Our brain only processes at a certain speed, which is like what, 1/1,000,000th of that of this stinking laptop that I'm talking to you on, right? Is the average brain processing speed, something along those lines. And then there we are with one of these things in our pocket that also has a processing speed that is way faster than our brains. And we're trying to think that we're in control of all of it by having 4 or 5 conversations at once on this, while also being in a public place and trying to take in our surroundings and everything that's going on and the people and the interactions and things that happen. And the fact is the brain only has enough processing power to do one of those things at a time. So which one are you focused on doing, right? It's all a matter of where your focus lies. The brain is a powerful thing, but it all depends on where your focus lies. And so if you are trying to be courteous or trying to be nice to somebody, but you lack the understanding that a lot of people are conditioned into these different sort of negative habitual trends. And so you become offended by the fact that they don't acknowledge you at first because they're not used to receiving compliments or whatever the case may be, or maybe they had their head in their 3 conversations they were having here and it doesn't register with them for another 5 minutes. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have an impact, right? And I'm not saying you should judge them for being on their phone. I mean, why judge them? We all do it. We've all done it. We've all been having conversations with our spouse, boss, and a lead, a contact, a friend, and whatever else. Someone going through a hard time while also running around with our children and we in the store trying to buy something. We've all been there, you know? So I just don't judge. Try not to judge. Don't ask about what happens when I slow down or change lanes to let people in the highway and they don't give the wave. I don't give the wave. I'm gonna be honest, but I just get it. No, sometimes I do. Sometimes I wave. I don't know. I go back and forth with that one. But I also am one of those people that always lets people in, but I don't need acknowledgement for it. Like I just let them in and then go on about my way because I don't know. I just don't feel like wasting my energy, any of my emotions. I don't have that much emotional energy to start with. So my emotional energy tank reserves are generally very, very low. And it has to do with my OCD and anxiety, depression, all that. But I've learned that because my emotional energy tanks can be so low, I have to make sure that I'm careful about what I expend that energy on. And I don't see expending my emotional energy on whether somebody acknowledges something I did or not as an important enough use of that energy, right? I have more valuable things I can do with my emotional energy than that. I kind of like, I have a limited supply when it comes to emotional energy. Now, physical energy, you know, I'm in shape. I've got all kinds of things there, but emotional energy, emotional energy kind of controls the whole thing, right? So you can be in shape and you can have a lot of physical energy, but if you don't have a lot of emotional energy, then there's nothing to drive that physical energy in any given direction. And that's where you get like things like restlessness and things like that, right? So, and I do get restless, and that's why I understand, right? I understand that that's pretty much how it happens. But the emotional energy controls the whole thing, and I don't have enough emotional energy to be throwing around on whether somebody acknowledged me holding the door open for them or letting them in on the highway or nothing. Hey, I love your shoes. Hey, I do have a story about that that's completely left turn from anything I've been talking about. Hey, I love your shoes. I can't say that anymore. Like, I try not to compliment women's shoes, shoes in particular, for a reason. Because so I was at this bar once, and yeah, went to a bar. Oh my goodness, the 30-something-year-old man has been to a bar. Anyway, I was at this bar once, and this lady had these boots on, and I complimented her on her shoes. And that was like, and then this guy who was like 5 times her age, like corners me in the bathroom alone, because he thought I was complimenting her on like a sexual body part. And I was like, nah, man, like I said shoes. I said shoes. I said, hey, those are nice shoes. I pointed at the shoes. And he was like, I don't know, he was just a weirdo. It was an almost fight I almost got into, but I don't think he was. I think he was just trying to intimidate me, and he was really thrown off by the fact that I acted like absolutely nothing was happening. And he just basically stood there staring at me until I walked out of the bathroom. But hey, whatever, man. But again, things I choose not to expend my emotional energy on, how someone takes it, right? So I gave that compliment to somebody, and I chose not to expend my emotional or physical energy on how he took that compliment, for whatever way he took that compliment. But funny story, I don't compliment women's shoes for any reason, shape, or form anymore for that reason. If I do, I will it has to be a shoe that I specifically know the name of. And I'm a man, so that knowledge is a little bit limited. But like, if I know that that's a high heel shoe, I might say, those are some nice heels, because there aren't that many words that can be like misinterpreted with. But anyway, I'm not even keeping up with the comments. I am so far behind. Let's see, Trace. Man, what's up? Smart enough to know I'm awkward, and not smart enough to not figure out how not to be awkward. That's exactly you're right. Kind of that way too. I know how not to be awkward, right? I'm smart enough to know how not to be awkward, but yeah, I can't always figure out how to like get all the pieces to go together to actually make that happen. It's a complicated process. It's all complex. Yeah, night shift. Man, I've done the night shift. I've done the graveyard thing. Not as long as you have, but I did it for almost a year. And that changes a person. Working night shift, anything. Especially if you have to deal with people during that night shift. Like factory is one thing if you're dealing with the same people all the time, but if you're dealing with like customers, you do a night shift like retail or a hospital or something like that, that changes a person. There was this weird thing, I always thought there was a hospital near one of the gas stations that I worked graveyard shifts in. And all through the night, we got nurses in, and they'd come over for breaks. And I always made the coffee early when I worked there, because they were always upset no one else made coffee early enough for when they would show up right before they were taking their last break or whatever, right before they got off shift at like 4 a.m. or something like that, 4:30 a.m. And I always used to hang out with them and talk to them. And I always kind of thought about, man, y'all got y'all nurses, you save lives, you have these awesome jobs and all that. And then we started talking, and it was kind of funny, like how relatable it was to be a night shift nurse and to be a night shift gas station attendant. There's a lot of strange, relatable experiences there. But yeah, all the nurses would take their smoke breaks, and I'd give them a hard time about smoking on their break, and they were like, it's night shift. It's we don't care about our own health. It's other people's health. I don't know. They were cool people. I just remember all the night shift nurses used to come talk to me. But I had quite a crowd. I had regulars. I was a graveyard shift gas station attendant that had regulars, it was a little bit strange. I don't know. We're all half dead most of the time. Yeah, I mean, I feel half dead right now. Been having some tough fights this past couple weeks, you know, just internal things. If you can't beat yourself, then, you know, you don't have much left to go on and do things in the world. And I got a lot of things I want to do in the world. So, you know, I've had a couple things going on in myself that I've got to get back under control. I've had under control many times, but you know, things well up, things swell. You got to relearn the same old lessons sometimes over and over and over again. And, you know, sometimes you fight the same battles. Sometimes the battle's a little bit different. It's like sometimes the dark side finds a way to beat all the coping mechanisms you found thus far. And then, you know, you got to find a way around that, a new mechanism. And then they find a way to beat that, you know. It's like a mental chess battle. You always know what the other person's going to do, so you can never quite win. It's like playing chess with your subconscious, you know? So your subconscious always knows what you're going to do. So it's really difficult to outsmart that, but you're fully aware of where your subconscious is at, you know? That's kind of how I relate to some of these internal battles. It's hard. Some of the hardest battles you'll ever fight in your life, but they're also the ones that really help you learn to define who you are and who you're going to be. So, but yeah, we're all half dead most of the time, afraid to ask for help, afraid of the judgment that follows. That's right. And that's one of the same reasons we're afraid to take compliments. A lot of us, we're shocked when people comment, or our first thought is skepticism, right? Someone compliments me, my first thought might be skepticism, and that they're actually making fun of me in some way, or that they're judging me in some way. And having enough confidence to let go of that and kind of be like, I don't really care, you know, if this person is judging me or not, that's their problem. Sounds simple on the surface, and yet there are so many of us that struggle with that ability, right? That ability to not worry about it. I know a lot of people have that ability, but I know a lot of people that struggle with it as well. I'm in and out with that. You know, sometimes I'm there, short bursts, and sometimes I'm not. But if you get to that point, then you can kind of see through that and realize that a lot less people are judgmental than we're afraid that are, you know. And I hate to be one of those. I don't want to talk about some conspiracy crap and all that, because I mean it's mostly junk, it's BS. But when you talk about like the news, there's some reality stuff when it comes to that, right? We get conditioned to small statistic news. It was something I found very interesting. It was released by Bill Gates and somebody else not long ago. I can't remember. I did verify it, but it was a deaths per year thing. And it had everything listed from heart disease, which was one of the largest killers by far, down to terrorism and things like that. And it had a graph, and it was side by side. It was the actual numbers of deaths by versus percentage of media coverage of deaths by. And while that might seem, you know, interesting enough, it only tells one side of the story. What I appreciated about this particular article was that they also included a trend. So they included a graph that was like 10 years ago, a set of graphs that was 10 years ago, and then one that was current. And how the death toll, what was interesting is that things didn't really swap places much as far as death toll, but the total amount of death tolls changed directly related to media coverage. The amount of terrorism deaths rose directly related to and it is directly related to more media coverage of that. Now, whether one causes the other, that's kind of a logical fallacy. But the fact of the matter is something like heart disease is all the way at the top of that list. You know, it's something we don't talk about a whole lot. And so we see these small stats, though. My point is we see these small stats on the news, but it's what we see the most of. What we see the most of becomes the biggest thing to us, even if it's only 3% of the whole, right? It just becomes the largest thing. And so we see so much judgment. We see so much hatred get put out on the news, you know, when they're covering neo-Nazi rallies and they're covering, you know, this stuff and that stuff. And we see so much of that nonsense and just ridiculous hatred and some of those non-helpful emotions. We see the news stir that, and we see it on the news. And so we see that, but we don't always logically make that connection to realize that we're talking about a few hundred people here, or maybe even a few thousands. Maybe we're talking about a few thousand people here, but there are millions, I mean, billions of people in the world, in the country. So like to make an assumption based off that 0.000004% that everybody is going to be super judgmental, you know. And the problem is that a lot of people are. There are a lot of people that are super judgmental. Too many. I've met too many in my life. There are far too many of us that are very judgmental. But the only way to kind of combat that is just to, as I've found, is just to not be judgmental yourself and to just keep trying. And if you run into one of those judgmental ones, don't assume they're the bigger part of the whole, because a lot of times they're just the loudest. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the most. So all I mean by that is we have a lot of assumptions about judgment, but in my experience, it's shocking how few people are really that judgmental, especially if you catch them on their own. And maybe they are internally, but how few people are that judgmental externally, or who are going to be that way, actually that way, or in a negative way towards you, right? I find that more people appreciate it and appreciate the kindness, because more people, it's almost like the majority feel alone, which seems strange, right? It's like the majority of people I meet in the world through these strange conversations I end up having just through common courtesy. It seems to me that the majority feels alone and they seclude themselves, while it's the loud, sort of smaller percentage of people that cluster up and everybody becomes afraid of. And why are we afraid of it? I mean, the internet's here. We can say whatever we want. So can they, so can whoever. It doesn't really matter, but we still have the power of what we're going to pay attention to. We have the power over our focus. We may not always have the power over how much processing power our brain has, but we do have the power over what we focus that processing power on. So back to what I was talking about. We can focus that processing power on the negative, or we can focus that processing power on something that's going to be useful for us, something that reaches our end game. So even if someone else on the other side of the world is doing their thing and working to better the world, like I love hearing stories like that. I love seeing that, but I'm not going to expend emotional energy on that, because I'm going to focus on my emotional energy. I can't do anything about that. I can't do anything to help them. But what I can do is I can do my part here, right? So I just, keep in mind that each part plays a piece in the bigger picture. Trying to not focus on the negative, not helpful things like, hey, that person didn't acknowledge my courtesy, and instead focus my emotional energy on the things that are actually going to help people or help somebody, or at least get me towards my goals, right? So I don't know, I'm so far behind these comments. Yeah, what's in it for me mentality? Yeah, man, that what's in it for me mentality is crazy. And I see it all the time. When you're an entrepreneur, doesn't matter what industry you're in, eventually you're going to hit a point where you become inundated with people who think they can sell your product for you better than you for the low price of $1,000 3-day course, or the low price of $3,000 a month. It's utterly insane how many of these there are out there. And the fact is every one of them, none of those businesses have ever actually had a successful sales business themselves. They are essentially practicing salesmanship on selling you on their ability to sell things. That's what those people are. And where a lot of that comes from is every time someone goes to share something, right? About 4 years ago, there was this big thing around martial arts owners. A lot of people rallied around sharing information. It's still kind of going on, and I try to be a part of it as much as I can, where a lot of it's just share stuff for free, right? Share valuable information, core curriculum information, just like stuff that normally businesses would keep to themselves. There was this whole thing, but around that is also this whole society that believes that those things should not be given away for free, and it believes that they should monetize on those things. And the odd thing is more often the people trying to monetize on those things are the people who never made money with those things. But they're trying to monetize it and tell you that you can make money with it, even though they never did. But a lot of us that are out here giving our information away for free, I give my business information away for free to a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff like that, like our employee handbooks, manuals, templates, how we lay our app, everything, right? I give that information freely. How we do our social media, how we design videos, how we do everything. I mean, I've given pretty much everything away for free. And then there's other people out there that get mad about that, that say, you know, it should be charged for, and they're trying to charge $300 a month, $700 a month, $1,000 a month to do it. But the fact of the matter is those people have never done it. You know, the people giving it away, those are the people that have already done it. You know why they're giving it away? Because they don't need to sell it, because it worked. Because it worked for them. So therefore they don't need to sell it. So like there's that sharing information wow, did I get really off subject? But yeah, so it was that dropping that what's in it for me mentality, right? And you see that everywhere, you know. But that's the idea. People are realizing that you can do all kinds of things to make money online, and so you get a lot of people that attempt to. Now, even though I myself said you can make money lots of ways online, and you can. The problem is you can't ask yourself what's in it for me. You actually have to care. You actually have to care about what you're doing, and you actually have to have a message, and you actually have to define yourself, and you actually have to brand yourself, and you do actually have to put in the work to communicate who you are correctly and figure out how to put that in front of the right audience. There's a whole lot of moving parts to becoming successful at anything using online business or whatever it is. And if your first thought of anything is what's in it for me, then you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. It's just not how it works, right? We kind of forget that the road to success is paved by helping other people find success as well, and building a tribe, a team, not an individual. You know, does it make sense? Yeah, not because you get any kind of reward. No, that's just integrity, doing good just to do it, not because you get any kind of reward. Of course, we all are gonna like feel better by doing good. You usually feel good about yourself, maybe some little bit of self-righteousness or whatever, but there's no harm in having a small amount of pride. Yeah, for shame about going to the bar, right? Oh, now I'm just now getting to the comments about going to the bar. I am that far behind. No judgment. Yeah, no, I don't judge. I don't judge at all. No worries there. It's okay. I was basically doing the same thing Saturday, Tasha. We went out to Will's birthday. I can't believe they taught me into going to something like that. But, you know, I went and I sat there and I did the things. I had to have a couple drinks, though, with my dinner, for sure. I social courage, right? Saturday was a terrible night. Uh-oh. Then we got Beth. Beth had it the other way around. I mean, glorious. Oh, glorious at the time. You mean so Sunday was a terrible morning? That's what you're trying to say?
She went camping with her.
Oh, she did. She was camping. I forgot. I saw those pictures. Mike took heels for a spin. Yeah, sure. That was back with my story about the complimenting shoes. Am I that far back? Wow. I hung out with my friend Tequila. There we go. Just moved to a conversation about tequila. No one's talking about my scotch or whiskey. That's mine of choice, to be frank. The tree you were leaned up against moved. I've had that happen. I've had entire bonfires move from beside me to underneath me in a matter of, I don't know what happened. I was standing still, and then all of a sudden, you know, thank goodness I've always had good friends that were there for me. Miss Littlejaw, Miss Diane, I didn't even know you were in this. Hey, thanks for joining this live video. It's good to see you. Mike already greeted you, said Miss Diane, and seconded. Yeah, giving it away for free goes back to knowing your why. Why are you even giving it away? Are you giving it away as courtesy, right? So I give away my business materials as a courtesy, right? And I don't expect anything in return for that courtesy. I give it away because of my why, because I want to see other martial arts schools do better. I don't just mean, you know, financially and business-wise. I want to see them hold themselves to a better standard. We have students that have been and attended other schools, even other schools I've recommended, who came back with horror stories, and I kind of feel responsible for that. I feel guilty for that. And so why did I start giving away a lot of my material? To try to help other schools become better at what they do. So, you know, that's why, because to me, it's more important than my business and a name. A legacy can be something bigger than that. A legacy doesn't have to be traced to a single person. A legacy can just be this magical thing that gets shared around and gets known by enough people and used by enough people that changes the world, and no one knows where it starts, right? Magic does happen in a sort of way. It just has its own scientific way of happening. But from the human's mind, small sort of our lack of processing powers, ability to perceive, you know, it does appear to be magic. Sometimes things spread like that, like wildfire. We know how it works, but you know, fat thumbs. That's okay. No judgment on fat thumbs either. My thumbs aren't fat, but I use that excuse constantly because I try to type too fast on this thing. And this thing always ends up with the weirdest autocorrects because I like don't even stop to proofread or pay attention while I'm going. So it ends up thinking that my weird, terrible spelling is the correct spelling of fruit or whatever, you know? So I use the fat thumbs excuse all the time. I understand. Scotch and whiskey, yeah. I used to drink Fireball in the wintertime. That came from my grandpa. My grandpa used to, his wasn't Fireball. He used to drink peppermint schnapps when he went hunting in the winter. He always had a flask of peppermint schnapps. And of course, this was a different time. And it wasn't like he was giving us alcohol, but when we were all out there and it'd be cold, you know, and I'd be probably 12, 15 years old, he'd pass around the flask and we'd all take a nip and they'd tell us the younger ones, like, just put it on your lips, it'll warm you up, swish it around in your mouth a little bit, you know. And that was his way of, I don't know, his hunting drink. My grandpa didn't drink much, but he did always have his peppermint schnapps when he went hunting. I always found that funny, but I enjoyed Fireball later on. I think I relate it back to the peppermint schnapps in the wintertime. So, wow, we turned this all to, like, this entire thing to being about alcohol. Ready to drink peach margaritas. Oh my goodness, that's scary. Yeah, see, when I was in Australia, I lived in Australia I was there, extended vacation. I don't know. I was there for like 3 months when I was 12, 13, 14, I don't know, somewhere in that range. And one of the things that I thought was like really nifty, even at that age, I just thought it was cool. At gas stations, they sold this, and they sold it like beer or like pop, actually. You could buy it in like the 12-pack cans, or like beer's the same way, the 30-pack cans and everything else. And it was 50-50 pre-mixed Jim Beam and Coke. Now, I'm not like a Jim Beam fan. Like, it's not my favorite whiskey if I'm gonna go for a whiskey, but I found that astounding that they sold these pre-mixed whiskeys, and that's what they drank. They always drank on their way to the sporting events. My aunt and uncle owned operated. I don't exactly know what was going on with all that. A sporting complex, and they had a semi-pro and amateur teams in sports like netball and Australian football and cricket. So I had to learn how to play. I didn't learn how to play cricket because, oh my goodness, I drew a line. I drew a line on learning cricket. I did learn netball though. That was a fun game. We need netball here. Netball is a fun game. Wow, am I really getting off subject now? I forgot what I was talking about. Or anyway, yeah, they had the Jim Beam and Coke over there, half pre-mixed Jim Beam and Coke, and you just buy it in a gas station. And that's kind of one of those things I always was like, maybe one day here, maybe one day we'll have something like it. We have a few things now that taste like it, like Monaco came out with something that kind of tastes like a bourbon mix, but it's not. It's not at all. It's not the same thing.
It's a Kentucky Eagle.
Yeah. No one actually lives in Australia. They survived it. Well, yeah, I survived it. I was there for 3 months. I survived. It wasn't that bad. I gotta say, it's like America, but mouthier. And I know that's not an analogy you hear about Australia a lot. And this has been years and years ago that I was there. And maybe it's just because my family's Australian, so I wasn't treated like a tourist, I guess. I was treated like family, I suppose. But it was like America, but completely different and mouthier. Much mouthier. Like, these people, everyone I met seemed to pride themselves on their wit and ability to be mouthy. I mean, dirty, downright, just mouthy. So I don't know if it's still that way. But not that America's much different. I mean, we have a lot of places like that. But wow, Australia, like when I was there, it was a whole nother level. Like, it was a whole nother level. It was crazy. I don't know. Other than that, they're really nice people. I like the no sales tax thing, but everything was more expensive too. So I don't know. You get one trade for the other. Australia's just as mad at their government. You know, you got a lot of government problems over there between their conservatives and liberals as well, going back and forth on a handful of issues. I know they've been having trouble with to deal with the Australian economy, which has never been extraordinarily strong, even though they certainly have nice like infrastructures and stuff like that. Like they certainly have nice cities, unless they've gone to rot since then. But I don't know. But I know they've never had a super strong economy worldwide. So, but you are seeing more Australian-based businesses get bigger and bigger. Matter of fact, the people who designed our new website, they didn't originally start in Australia, but their second office was in Australia. They just recently opened their third office, which was in California, and that's what we were doing. That's who we were having our new website made through. So, oh my goodness, Brandy. No judgment there either. Oh my goodness, if you only knew. If you only knew, Brandy. I even said in a live video the other day that, you know, I was talking about vices and things like that, that I was homeless at 16. You can't expect me in that mindset to have made a lot of mature choices. I had my bouts with all kinds of addictions, from straight up alcoholism, which is not the case now. I drink very rarely, but from straight up bouts with that to drug addiction and everything else, man. I ran the gamut there between the ages of 16 and 18. I was kind of all over the place. So yeah, man, no judgment at all. That is a funny story though, Brandy. I love some people's stories. I won't say much on it since, you know, I don't know how many people saw the comment, but yeah. I've heard many funny stories about how that affects different people, and I don't know. I mean, if I'm honest about any effect I'd ever noticed on it, I focus better. I don't know. I just if it comes down to it, if I talk about my experiences with that stuff, I just focused better. It made me more sociable. It made me more present. It made me more in the moment, and it made me less in my head. I don't know. That's all. That was my only experience when it came to that. Huh? Oh, I thought you were talking to me. Wow, y'all talking about the dojo lock-in and stuff again, and the child's not being focused and all this stuff. I'm not being focused. I'm supposed to be talking about courtesy. I got to start scripting these videos. If I don't script these videos, I'm just going to talk about all kinds of random nonsense. This is just what ends up happening. Anyway, Brittany just now joined. Brittany, you've been standing behind me for how long? I know. And you just now joined the video. That tagged me in the comments, so okay. Brittany wasn't even going to listen to me from the other side of the room. Not even the other side of the room. Not even the other side of the room. Halfway across the other side of the room. Anyway, courtesy. It's the one coin, the currency that the more you spend, the more you get in return. Don't be courteous expecting anything in return, though. What comes back in return is not that immediate thank you. That's not what you're after. You're after that general upraised morality as it spreads. As that positivity spreads through the community, you see that generally higher level of morality around town. That should be your reward for using your courtesy more, strangers and others and things like that. So till I see how just Focus Week. I don't know when Focus Week is. 5 weeks according to Beth. Beth, how do you know that?
No.
Someone's calling me.
I think Focus Week is next week.
Hello? Danny's not here. Right, I'm on a live. Right, I'm on a live video right now. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate it. And I hate those. It was one of those police scam things. You guys been getting those calls lately? Police are holding a fundraiser, blah, blah, blah. And I tell you what, like, because I'm all for supporting the police and all that, but here's how you can tell if it's a scam, because they're all stinking scams. Tell them that you'll drive down to the local police station to make your donation. They will completely not like that idea. And so there you go. I'll tell you, it's just a scam right there. But anyway, that was another one of those police things. I don't know why I answered it. Danny, what did you do? That was Danny from the National Police Fundraising Department, which sounds very real, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's totally, considering police are, city, county, state, and then you have the federal, a national fundraiser. I don't know, man. Oh, so you guys get those calls too. Yeah, it's always, and that's it. That's how they did it. Is so-and-so there. They asked if Danny was here. This isn't Danny. Whatever. I don't know. Whatever. Or did he tell me his name was Danny? See, I don't even remember. That's how little focus I had in that conversation. He was looking for Danny. He wasn't looking for Danny. He was looking for me. My name's not Danny. Anyway, now we've talked about courtesy. We did the whole thing, and I have this completely random nonsense spew out of my mouth. Was I courteous on the phone? I don't know. I just told him I was doing a live video. I was about to ask him if he'd like to give his speech to you guys. And as soon as I said I was on the live video, he was just like, oh, I am so sorry, and hung up. So I didn't get a chance. I was going to try to put him on speakerphone and let him talk to y'all. Because that's just the weird type of person that I am. This is what I do for fun. I play with scam calls. I play with scam callers. This is my hobby. So, yep, a Nigerian prince. Yeah, got that one too. Yeah, or you're the last living relative one of a James Rose. What's funny is they always use your middle name and last name for it. And then they say you had a great uncle. It was by your middle name and last name. They found out you were named after you and you're the last living heir. And I'm like, what about my daddy? My dad's still alive. The heck are you talking about? Oh yeah, scammer people. They're funny. They're funny people. But people fall for it. That's the only reason they continue to do it, is people do fall for it. So, and they don't need many. They just need a few. So anyway, I really got off subject now. Oh, I don't have the wit either. I just say stuff like to play with. I don't really have the wit. I just kind of talk to them. I treat it like a business meeting sometimes. And like I'll talk to them as if I've already spoken to their manager and had a different deal with them. That's pretty fun. That's always fun. And I just play the business role, right? No, that's a lot of fun. Anyway, I talked about courtesy enough. Be the best teammate you can be. Be the best at being you.